Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. This particular video is for the historic best of one format. If you're looking for best of three, Explorer, Standard, Alchemy, any arena format that is a constructed ladder, we take a look each week so you can check it out in the playlist. We get the data from Untapped.gg, which is the companion tool that runs alongside your arena client, what you see on the screen. It's got a whole bunch of great stats that it takes, both for your own win rates, collection, everything like that, as well as in-game overlays. Free to use a whole bunch of it. The link is in the video description. Click that link, and you can install and copy all these decks into your arena client and win and get to Mythic. In addition, I will paste all these deck lists into the video description, so if you just want to copy and paste, you can do so as well. So like I said, this is historic best of one. July 15th to 22nd. It is finally cool enough that I could run my PC without melting everything. Heat wave is somewhat over, so we're back up here. And this one is 29,000 game sample. This one's really cool because one of my decks made it. Variation, and we'll get to it in a sec. But the top performing deck of the week, if we jump into it, is Izzet Wizards. So notably, what happened was Phoenix was arguably one of the best decks in best of three. We've seen it kind of move to, in best of one it was so-so, it had its win rates, but there was a lot of powerful cards, notably Unholy Heat, which we saw get nerfed. We saw Dragon Rage Chandler get nerfed to be just a 3-1. We saw Meathook Massacre get nerfed. We saw Cauldron Familiar get nerfed. And what's kind of made it is the premier kind of aggro Izzet tempo deck has shifted over to Izzet Wizards. And what you're trying to do is kind of play a prowess style deck with a bunch of burn. The combination of Symmetry Sage, making all your other creatures, your wizards, get buffed power whenever you cast an instant is really, really powerful. So you can do stuff like Dreadhorde Arcanist and make it have base power 3, which lets you flash back out any instant or sorcery in your graveyard. So you can get back your Expressive Iterations, your Static Discharges, stuff like that. The curve of this deck is very low. You're only playing 19 lands plus one Spikefield Hazard, so 20 lands. There's a combination as well with Reckless Charge, giving your creatures haste. So you can just chunk huge amounts of damage in one shot. These decks were playing Harmonic Prodigy. They've since moved over to Sprite Dragon for the most part. There's still versions, as you can see, with the Harmonic Prodigy. But a lot of them now are on the Sprite Dragon plan, just an evasive flyer, can also scale and get big as well. But just burn, you got Play with Fire, Wizard's Lightning, and Static Discharge, 12 pieces of interaction that can be flashed back, a bunch of card advantage mixed into there, and some copies of Den as well as a creature land. Next we're jumping into Esper Reanimator. So this is kind of a big fatty cheat into play prison-y style deck. So this version is more mid-range focused, where in the past we've seen kind of all in, you kind of just churn through your deck. You have Ashiok 3 to mill your graveyard, but ideally as early as turn 3, thanks to Priest of the Fell Rites, or turn 4 with Unburial Rites in your graveyard, you're able to get into play either like Elish Norn, Jin-Gitaxias, Serra's Emissary, notably Serra's Emissary. A lot of times if you name creatures, your opponent could potentially just not win the game. Notable, if you are playing this deck, or you're playing 9 lives, Stomp ability of Bonecrusher Giant gets around damage prevention, same as Questing Beast. So those can break the lock and you can get through damage. So be mindful against mono red. But this is very similar to kind of the package we've seen in the historic Greasefang deck, which we'll see in a second. It is using cards like Rafine's Informant, Season Hallowblade, Rafine, and Diviner of Fate to throw cards into your graveyard and get them back. There's also an Ulamog in here, just casually. You know, the 10-10 Eldrazi just hanging out in the corner, just like, Rah! So yeah, Esper, kind of lock them in, kill them that way. A little less interaction, no fatal pushes, stuff like that. Just big fatties all day, every day. Now, my version of Mono Red made it. And you're like, but Joe, everybody plays Mono Red. No. I brought Ambergris. Ambergris is my baby. So this is my take on Mono Red. If you want to see the video, put it out last week. Proof, 5 days ago. I'm like close to 20-3 with the deck. I was playing a bunch on mobile. I have a bunch of like even events. Let's go constructed events. I had a little bit of a bad run, but on the ladder I was doing really well. I was having a day, but like 47 and 27 in events with this mono red deck. I've had a very high win rate, like as shown. Back. Like lifetime 66, but I've been on a heater with it on the arena ladder, 85% plus with this version. So I go through a full video. I'll link it there if you want to see. I have gameplay, stuff like that. But the biggest thing with this deck is Ambergris lets you refill your hand as a haste creature, which is great. This deck's usually dumping his hand on turn 2 to 3. All the cards are gone, and then you're just top decking, which kind of feels like garbage. This lets you just draw 2 cards really willy-nilly. You can do it in full control mode, so you can attack, splash an Embercleave, and then draw the cards too. There's a lot of cool synergy there. Notably, I'm off Vortex. If we look at a lot of the decks right now, they are aggressive or pretty much creature decks. There's a couple Dragonstorm, stuff like that, but there's not a lot of control in the format. With that said, there's a lot of wizards, there's a lot of small creature decks, elves, stuff like that. So I've been playing Play with Fire as another cheap interaction. Can go face to help you scry as well. So all our burn can also go face. You have the copies of Stomp as well. It's just more removal, helpful in a bunch of different matchups. Notably as well, like Chain Whirler is just not doing much in this format right now against the elves, which you think, hey, it's elves, there's just a bunch of X1s, but there's so many lords in that deck that you typically can't sweep with the Chain Whirler on curve. And this, like, Ferocidon shuts down the life gain deck. I've played hundreds of games of mono red. I kind of tweak it each month, kind of meta season, what's happening, stuff like that. So basically, like, Kumano is always going to be here. Reckless is always going to be here. For the most part, these 10 cards are always the same. Bonecrusher and Ferocidon, for the most part, always stick in there for me. Sometimes this is Chandra, sometimes it's Torbran, sometimes we're on Cleave. If it's a heavy control matchup, then I'm not on Cleave, I'm on Vortex. Similarly, depending on the meta, if we get a lot of smaller creature decks, then we go back to stuff like Chain Whirler. But right now, Ambergris has been fantastic. 24 lands. Watch the video if you have any questions about Mono Red. I've played so many different versions, Cross Explorer, Historic, Alchemy, you name it. I've thrown Embercleave on people, I've smashed face, I've stomped people. So that's just cool. My deck made it up. Next up is the Esper Greasefang deck. So very similar in kind of concept to the Reanimator deck. So you have the package like Hallow Blade, Rafine, Diviner of Fates. This version though as well has Ledger Shredder to put cards into your graveyard, Season Hallow Blade, Thalia attacks your opponent, Esper Sentinel to draw you cards, and Captain finds you cards, and really once Parhelion's in your graveyard, you can reanimate it with Greasefang and attack for 13 with 2 4/4 angels left behind. So next up, Dragonstorm, 59%, 60%. This is a graveyard combo deck that just, if you show them Soul Guide Lantern or Rest in Peace, they concede. But what they're trying to do, throw cards into your graveyard. Otherworldly Gaze, Joe, not Glaze. Forbidden Donut. Faithless Looting, Cathartic Pyre, Cathartic Reunion, Prismari Command. Just throw cards into your graveyard. So ideally what you want to do is with Mizzix's Mastery and 1 dragon in the graveyard, either a Terror or a Bladewing. Mizzix's Mastery targeting Dragonstorm gives you enough storm count. You basically want to get a copy of Terror, it peeks into play, 2 copies of Bladewing. The Risen creates an infinite loop of enter the battlefield effects that then kill your opponent. You can also Prismari Command, getting Emergent Ultimatum. You get Scholar of the Lost Troves, as well as a Dragonstorm, and typically another copy of like a graveyard effect, Burial Rites or something like that. Typically you'll see the 7 mana throw cards into your graveyard to get another copy of Emergent Ultimatum. Interesting, this one doesn't have it. You got Vel'Amalka's in here for some reason. I would just play the other one. It's a 7 mana with Liliana on it. I forget the name, but you get to put 1 card into your hand, 1 card into your graveyard. And then with that, you put in another copy of Emergent Ultimatum, and you basically just keep trying to guarantee that you get the Dragonstorm into play. and kind of kill them that way there. So yeah, then you got Azoreous Affinity. So this is a kind of artifact tribal deck. So you can make really big Ingenious Smiths, or Nettlecyst gets bigger from artifacts or enchantments. Karn's minus makes big Karnstructs. You draw cards for really cheap thanks to Thought Monitor, ideally being a 1 mana draw 2, create a 2/2 flyer. Metallic Rebuke is 1 mana leak. And then you kind of have like special kind of Silver Bullets, Graveyard Hate, Shadow Sphere plays really well. Nettlecyst, Moonsnare Prototype is either ramp or bounce. Notably, this is any permanent, so you can get like around 9 lives. You can get around Sarah's Emissary, stuff like that. Then Esper Sentinel always tends to draw a bunch of cards in these types of decks. Then a deck I saw Croaky's play today, and it's been on kind of a lower end. This is a mono red Kiln Fiend kind of aggro deck, and this deck is very cheap if you're looking for a budgety deck. This configuration only has 8 rares, 4 Dreadhorde Arcanists, 4 Soul-Scar Mage, so it's just like play creature, draw cards, give trample, pump effects, get haste, double your power, double the fun, and just like 20-shot your opponent in one go. So kind of a cool deck if you're looking for a budgety kind of deck, mono red prowess. And then we have mono green elves, tribal deck as well. This is what you're trying to do is just generate a bunch of mana thanks to Elvish Archdruid, tapping for each elf you have, and then through stuff like Collected Company or even flipped Growing Rites of Ilthamog, you can make a lot of mana. You assemble a board of elves. You got lords in like Elvish Archdruid, Elvish Clangcaller, Impervious Perfect. You make tokens with Elvish Warmaster, and then once you have all that mana, you pump it into Allosaurus Shepherd or Elvish Warmaster, or you either naturally draw Crater Hoof or Fierce Empath to get the Crater Hoof and then overrun your opponent. So that's pretty much it for the week. Like I said, mono red for me has been very good. I've also been playing some mono red in Alchemy. I'm 13-3 and then 10-1 in events so far with it. So I'm kind of hanging around mid 300. But a lot of cool decks we played this week. You can check them out, videos on the channel, as well as these kind of weekly shots. I think I'm going to camp. I know I peaked at 16 Mythic this month, but if I can keep around 300-ish and then ride out the rest of the month and just bank play points and gems for the new anthology, I think I'm going to do that. But let me know if you're grinding this month. And what we'll do is with the anthology drops, we'll start maybe trying to brew some decks, and then I'll come out with stats as soon as I can for the new formats, both Explorer and Historic, once we get those anthologies injected. Tarmogoyf's coming! And Kalidas. I'm so happy for Kalidas. My paper copies are in the mail. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.